Hey guys, it's Daniel here at Further Faster. It's Friday, and of course you know what we do on Fridays. We drink beer, and we talk about some new gear. But today's kind of a special day because we've got a special guest. We've got an Osprey ambassador with us, Dougal Allan.
Cheers.
He likes beer, I found out. Straight away. Would you like beer? Yes, please. So I was wondering if this top athlete would be like, nah, but he was straight into it. So what are you thinking?
I'm enjoying it. Hops aren't generally my flavour. I go for the malty, the stouts and the porters. We will get to Osprey Packs in a minute, but more importantly, the beer.
Do the beer.
So for a hoppy beer, I like it. I'd give it 7 out of 10.
And we're drinking McLeod's Northern Hammer New Zealand IPA. So I'm enjoying it, but yes, if I'd known, see, everyone gives me a hard time because I always come back and I have stouts and porters and things like that, and everyone gives me a hard time about it. So if I'd known you were into that, I would have done something different. But there it is. That's the beer. It's a good one. Try it out. Right. So, yeah, tell us about yourself a little bit. We'll get to the gear. Tell us about yourself.
So I have been a multi-sport athlete and adventure racing athlete, I guess, for 15 years, I think my website says.
I kind of said, how many coast to coast have you done? And he said, well, are we talking about 1 day or 2 days? What are we talking about? That many?
Yeah, I think there's been 7 one-day coast to coasts. I've dabbled in other sports along the way, but so that's kind of what I do athletically, and I also coach athletes in the same sport. So it's kind of a cool dynamic between me learning as an athlete, but also me teaching as a coach.
That's cool. So what's the typical week look like then?
Well, it's pretty busy because I've also got a family, but
so you got a typical kids?
Yep, 2 kids.
Yeah, fair enough.
Boy and a girl, 5 and 3. And a typical day, I guess, would involve training 3 times a day, and in between coaching and parenting and husbanding too.
Fair enough.
So quite a good way to fill a day, but also quite a busy way to fill a day, I guess.
And a fair amount of training, I suppose, happens?
Yeah, I probably train somewhere in the 20 to 25, 30 hours a week. So, training's definitely a big chunk of the day, but it's primarily what I love to do too. So it doesn't feel like it's a task, I guess. It's not arduous. Well, it is arduous, but it's good arduous.
But it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
I don't get quite that many hours in. I'll work on it. So tell us about then, how about your favorite race recently? What's your biggest highlight as of late?
In most recent times, I'd have to say some of the adventure racing I've done in China in recent years, because my teammates are cool. Sam Clark, Sam Edson, Simone Meyer, all really good athletes, all really good human beings. And
nice bunch of people.
Yeah, nothing beats that kind of feeling of being in a team environment, looking after one another and having successes. So some of the racing we've done in China have been highlights for my career, let alone in the recent sort of months. And
Awesome. Well, we do have to talk about gear as well, since you are an Osprey ambassador. By the way, I think I'm going to see if I can get one of these hats.
Yeah, you like that?
Pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've got some new product coming out. Well, actually, this is one that you've used in the past, so let's talk about that first. So we've got the Osprey Duro 6, which I was just impressed that you said this is what you use for coast, because that's pretty small. You really got some gear in there. So tell us how you use it.
Yeah, I mean, it does come in other sizes. Like a 15 is probably a good choice for someone who has
more typical.
Yeah, exactly. Who's not looking at weight savings like those of us trying to sort of podium and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But quite honestly, the Duro 6 comfortably fits all your compulsory gear for the coast to coast.
Yeah.
And you've got quite a bit of storage on the outside too, and it's stretchy. So for things like flasks, bottles, gels, things you want to be able to access on the go.
Yeah.
There's heaps of storage not included, I guess, in that number 6.
Yeah.
But internally, yeah, and in the coast to coast, you're essentially carrying some base layers, some outer waterproof layers, and a first aid kit. So it's not actually that much
real tight.
Totally. Yeah, and by squeezing it into a small space, it often creates a tighter ball that sort of sits up close to your body, because this sort of really, it's a harness style pack. So by the time that's wrapped around your body, there's limited, I guess, bouncing and distracting movement that comes from it.
Yeah, and you've got adjustability on it, so you can tighten it down.
Totally, yeah. And the front's worth checking out, because every multi-sporter, but also, I guess, fast hiker, peak bagger,
Yeah.
bike packer, those sorts of people, they like to have things accessible and in front of them, cameras, GoPros, phones,
Lots of fuel.
fuel, exactly. And so that's what I love about this harness style Euro 6, is that there's so much on offer around the front in terms of accessibility. Obviously too, that hydration is available to you. So
Yep. Do you use the hydration? Do you use bladder, or do you do soft flasks?
depends what I'm doing. In the coast to coast, we're lucky because we're running next to fresh water the whole
Yeah.
way, and so no, I don't use the reservoir in the
Yeah.
coast to coast.
Yeah.
However, I definitely do use the reservoir system in other activities and in training too.
Alright. Awesome, excellent, cool. And then let's look at the new pack.
Yeah, so
it's the
this-
Duro 6.
This is Euro 6. So this is the Talon Pro 30. So this is, I think, coming in November. Not quite on the shelves yet, but really
Yeah,
exciting.
this is a sneak peek without a doubt.
Yeah, you're very privileged people. If you're watching this, you can feel very special because this is hot off the press.
That's right. I think a Talon. I mean, the Talon is one of Osprey's like best known packs. You walk down the street and you'll see tons of people passing you on the way to work or whatever in the morning wearing a Talon. But this is a Talon Pro 30. But before we talk about features, what would you use it for?
Well, lots of things. That I find the 30 litre size just basically allows for anything from fast missions where you're travelling light right
Yeah.
through to, I mean, if
Yeah.
I was doing an overnight mission and I wasn't too concerned about extra bits and pieces I'm probably not going to use, then this would be
Totally do that.
perfectly fine. Especially so given there's a lot of, again, and this is where Osprey is so clever, opportunities to carry things exterior to the pack volume itself,
Yeah.
but do it in a really clean way where it's not likely to catch tree branches and
Yeah.
and fall off, that sort of thing. So
And we're in the Pro because we're moved to a Dyneema fabric, so we're talking tough, super tough fabric, but also nice and light. And then otherwise, you've kind of got the normal features you'd expect out of a Talon, I suppose, except for this new fancy back panel.
yes,
So it's kind of probably hard to see, but we've got this flex panel inside there. So you've got some padding there, but that back panel is what's changed. What they've been working on for a while, I hear. Comes in two sizes and is adjustable, so that's always nice. So you can get it to be a real comfortable fit. And then I was kind of confused by these, but you said, yeah, they're just fold-away pockets.
exactly. Yeah, you've got pretty handy pockets, and they'll carry most. Let's be honest, iPhones.
Yeah.
You've got to capture things for social media.
PLB maybe, PLB.
Yeah, but if you're old school and you don't need to show the world that you've been on a trip, you can just button that away and that pocket no longer exists. So best of both worlds. But yeah, the infused foam harness is definitely a big highlight and something I guess that shifts this classic Talon pack forward into the future.
There you go.
Osprey as a brand has always been very sustainability focused, and my understanding of the process of, not that I'm professing to be an expert on injected foam, but in the past where harnesses have been basically cutouts and there's a lot of waste that results from that, this is literally taking the harness and injecting it to create the shape and the fit, so a lot less waste involved with that. So I mean, the harness coupled with all the nylons recycled is moving, as I say, Osprey in that fully sustainable direction that they've always been keen to go, I guess.
Cool. There we go. That was pretty awesome. So, thanks for coming in, sharing these packs with us, and having some beer. And then, if you stick around for a little bit, I'll just tell you about my few coast-to-coast experiences too. I took a couple things home from those too, but we can talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, well, let's have a beer and talk. There's a
Get
story behind
into
every
the
trophy.
detail. That's right. Right. So there it is, guys. Have a good weekend.
Cheers.